Audie Hollis, he has become, one of my best friends. And what he brings to the team, obviously he's the heart behind the team, or the brains, I don't know, you probably want to say the brains. He's one of these guys that sacrifices for the team. It's kind of why I coach, because I want to get him in more than he would put himself in.
To play on that top level, this is what I got to do. I can't play because of my foot speed, and I can't play because of my defense. The reason I can play is because I got power, and I can hit the ball hard. And there's a place for me on that team. But I'm competing against every other big, strong man out there. So I have to do this, and I hope to do it as long as I can. Nice speech.
He's always been there for me every step of the way. And, I try to model my life after that for my son and my daughters.
He's a great guy, He's raised 6 kids. He came from nothing. He was a paper boy. He's the only one in his family to go to college.
Confident, strong, smart ass.
I've always thought my dad to be a superstar, superhero, super dad.
Conceited.
Audie is a great guy. Anybody who's met him and gotten to know him, he's a quality person, a stand-up guy, the type of people that people really respect.
Mostly probably self-worshipping.
He went out of his way to make our lives so much better than his was growing up. And it's, you don't realize it until you're out on your own and you realize how tough life really is.
He loves to kid around. You can literally say half the stuff that he says is true because the other half he's just making it up just to get a reaction.
He asked me to pull his finger on an airplane once. But instead of just, going through with it, he stood up and bent over in the airplane. And this was quite a small plane.
A body in motion is going to continue in motion. And I think, thank God he's figured it out years ago and he's still trucking along. But right now I'm 28 and I thought, God, my knees hurt and my elbows hurt, my shoulders, I'm going to die soon. And I'm looking at him and I'm like, dude, he doesn't even take Advil. He takes nothing. And I'm like, I have to take 5 Advil to get out of the bed. I'm 28. That's not good.
Everything he does, he goes hard. He doesn't stop. He just can't get to this level. He has to be at the top of everything.
The world all revolves around you.
What
It all revolves around me. Audie Hollis.
No.
Audie Hollis.
The world doesn't, but I am the center of the universe.
Okay, well, same difference.
I grew up on the north side of town, which is a relatively poor side of town. And so we were relatively poor growing up. But we didn't know it because everybody around that neighborhood was the same way. Nobody in our family had ever gone to college, and so my whole goal in life was to go to college. I was able to accomplish that in 4 years and, put myself through college, and then, was able to get married and, had a wonderful wife and had 6 great children, and now I've got 12 grandchildren. Through all the years, I was very involved in sports as a young man. Then once I got about 30, I quit playing all sports because of the kids and wanting to train them, coach them, go to PTA meetings, recitals. Life quit being about Audie and started being about others. And so I did that for 20 years, and then it's amazing. You do all this stuff and you go through life, and all your energy and all your focus is about your family. And then you wake up and they're all gone. You're sort of like, gee, I'm back to me again, And so what do? We feel like we're passing through life and we're going through stages. And, these next stages, you see these next stages coming. All of us have parents that are, they're 80 or 85. Most of us have lost one parent or two. And so we've all experienced that. Like when my father died 3 years ago, man, it hit me like a ton of bricks. And yet we were close, but we didn't spend an appreciable amount of time together. But I always knew that no matter what happened in life, the one guy that's going to support me is my dad. He's always going to have my back, and I'm always going to be his boy. And then when that goes, it just hits you like a ton of bricks. Thankfully, my mother's still alive. Now, she's the same way. She'll always have my back, but, we can see that she's not going to be here forever. And then it hits you, the next generation, the next 20 years is us. My life was knocking along pretty good, and I really enjoyed my life, and everything's going fine. And then 28 years into my marriage, our marriage broke up. And that hit me like a ton of bricks, because I was just totally in love. Through the circumstances that we had, I ended up having to raise 6 kids, with the youngest being 9. I had a 9, 11, a 13, a 15, and 17, and 19. When you're family oriented and that blows up, you're just devastated because you don't really understand it. It hits you so hard. There was about a 2-year period there that I was just totally devastated. I wasn't even the same guy. I've always been an upbeat, life's good, the glass is filling up, it's not going down. That's the only time I've ever been depressed in my life. The only time that chemically in my brain I didn't think right.
My mom left physically and my dad left mentally.
He's, always motivated, always pushing us, do better, do your best, be your best. And to see him at his lowest, I think that was the first time I ever saw my dad cry. To a kid, your dad is Superman. He's a superhero. He's this big, burly, muscular guy, So yeah, to see him at his lowest point, it was devastating. It affected all of us.
I saw my mom, I saw my dad, and no one could touch them. To me, they were a king and a queen. They were not going to be broken apart. It almost was like he just disintegrated. His body was weak, he was weak, his confidence was gone. He failed. And it took him a while to pull through it, but it was one of the biggest mountains he climbed personally, and we were following right behind him, just pushing, or maybe not pushing, but just watching as he was getting through it, I
always looked at people that had a problem in their life that they couldn't handle, particularly if it was something to do with depression, as being weak. And I always looked at things black and white. And then after going through that period of time in my life, for about a 2-year period where I was super depressed, I began to realize that it's not a weakness. You can't control it. You just physically can't control it. You can't control those emotions of how you feel. And you don't really want to talk to anybody about it because you feel like you're a failure. You feel like you failed your family. And even though you're maybe not at fault, that's the way you feel. And so you don't want to brag about that. You don't want to go out and explain that to somebody. You don't want to talk to somebody. You want to shield people from that. And so you put on the face that, hey, everything's fine. But inside you're dying. From that point, after a couple of years, then my life had turned around, Christine Lee came into my life and changed that so that I was looking forward to life rather than down. But here's the big thing about that. It really showed me where I was so judgmental to other people that I couldn't be anymore. Now I understood. When somebody was hurting, I can empathize with them. I had one good friend that's son was killed. And, we're at a tournament, and he gets a call that his only son, his only child, has been killed. And man, he didn't know what to do. He didn't know what to do. But I knew I couldn't stay at that tournament. I had to go with him. And I had to go back and be with him, because this is a bad time in his life. And that's 5 years ago. Even today, it still affects him, and in not a good way. And I'm just so thankful not to ever have something like that happen to my family. But it just changes your heart on people. It changes the way you look at